Perfect. Ladies and gentlemen, Damon Lester.
Good afternoon. As you just mentioned, I am Damon Lester, President of the National Association of Minority Automobile Dealers. Welcome to our virtual annual membership meeting speaker series. This afternoon, we are truly blessed with a special guest. He's a best-selling author, a producer, a motivational speaker, an entrepreneur, philanthropist, an international icon, bishop, and pastor to millions. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Bishop T.D. Jakes.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's a pleasure to be with you today and to celebrate with you, Damon, and to appreciate this momentous occasion as you celebrate your anniversary. I'm honored to be here.
Oh, well, thank you for coming on. And hey, man, you're looking sharp. I like that tie.
Thank you. I dressed up for you guys.
Well, we appreciate it. We definitely appreciate it.
I've been in jogging suits for days, weeks and weeks.
Yeah, same here, same here. That's the uniform today.
Exactly.
So before we begin, Bishop, just again, thank you for joining us. And for many of the people who don't know your story, can you just take a moment to introduce yourself and let everyone know the Bishop T.D. Jakes story?
Well, that's a very long story, but I'll truncate it if I can. I was born on June 9th of 1957 in Charleston, West Virginia. My father was a janitor and my mother was a school teacher. My father took a janitor's role with a mop and a bucket and turned it into a business with 52 employees. I grew up in a very entrepreneurial background with an entrepreneur on one side and an educator on the other side of my life. I attended West Virginia State College. I married a beautiful lady who also attended West Virginia State College. We spent years ministering there in Charleston, West Virginia, and decided to move to Dallas, Texas, and went from having 50 members to around 30,000 members. We branched out on social media, and our social media footprint is about 30 million people. Our largest city is Lagos, Nigeria, even above Dallas, Texas, Nairobi, Kenya, and then Atlanta, Georgia, and then Sydney, Australia. 5 kids, 4 grandchildren, loving life, enjoying myself. I have dabbled in films, done quite a bit of films, about $500 million worth of films, gross out at the box office. Have had 12 books on the New York Times bestsellers list, been on the cover of Time Magazine, Wall Street Journal, on and on and on and on, but I still eat grits and shrimp and cornbread and greens and potato salad and make a mean barbecue rib.
Well, man, we appreciate again you coming on, and I just we're going to touch on several different topics today, and just Bishop, as you know, this country is just facing so many different types of pandemics. We have COVID-19, we're facing economic distress, and we're seeing a lot of families here in the United States just standing in line just for food. We're experiencing racism, systemic racism, and yet every day we try to find balance within our family, maintaining our businesses, taking care of the employees, and yet also trying to keep ourselves healthy and sane. What message can you give when there's anxiety, disruption, frustration, and just overall feeling of that there's a lack of, particularly lack of diversity in the workplaces, which we're hearing a lot of, that's coming a lot to fruition today?
Well, when it comes to the pandemic, we are all experiencing something that we've never experienced before. And it's amazing that our generation has been trusted with this kind of problem. This will go down in the history books. How we survive it, how we endure it, and how it's regulated will be talked about long after you and I are dead and gone. And it is a stressful time, and it is a difficult time. And one of the things I tell people is do not oversaturate yourself with media. The news goes on and on 24 hours a day, unlike it did when I was a boy, when you had the 6 o'clock news with Walter Kite and you went on about your business to watch I Love Lucy. Our brains are constantly inundated with that kind of information. As it relates to the racism that we're having in the country, as African Americans, we have to see that a little differently than our Caucasian counterparts. They are experiencing what we have lived with all our lives. This is not an awakening for us. It has been a reality for years and years. The truth of the matter is we finally been heard. And in the process of being heard, now there is a debate and a discussion like we've never had before. And I want to say to minorities everywhere, don't see this as horrific as some of the images have been that have precipitated it. It is no different from Medgar Evers. It is no different than the charred bodies of little girls being drug out of the churches in the 60s. It is the catalyst of a white awakening. But don't get so caught up in that it numbs you to the fact that it is also the birthing place of great opportunity. Now, like never before, CEOs and corporate leaders are talking about how to include Black businesses, Black communities, or having Black discussions. And I don't want us to be so paralyzed by our emotional trauma that we fail to maximize the opportunities that are laid before us. There were several $1 billion left in the PPP program that never got applied for. We have to wake up out of our pain and get on with our future and do the best we can to move forward in spite of the vicissitudes of life. This is not new. I grew up and couldn't go to the bathrooms except they had a big C over the top of it. Colored water fountains, my father getting food at the back of a restaurant door. I don't have to adjust to something I was born in. The awakening is on the white community's part. We are wide awake, and let's be so awake that we maximize these opportunities, that we have the conversations, that we get out of our silos and out of our comfort zones and go into rooms where there are a lot of people who don't look like us and engage in answers and solutions. Because from my view, marching draws attention, but it doesn't provide solutions. Right now, the country wants to know, what do you want? And we have got to be in that room to give them specific answers, actionable plans, and move into the future.
You're definitely 100% correct. And within our industry, we have been urging a lot of manufacturers to come up with plans and for years. And now since the Black Lives Matter movement has happened, we're revisiting that topic and asking folks to reduce things into writing. If they don't reduce things into writing, that really kind of shows where that commitment is or lack thereof. And so to your point, we definitely are a lockstep in agreement, because the key to it is knowing what to ask. And many of us don't know what to ask.
I don't understand why we're not talking about partnerships with Fortune 100 companies where they are promoting their products like AT&T or Xerox, or promoting their products, but also demonstrating them in your cars. I don't understand why we're not dealing with partnerships where we can reduce the advertising costs and create the visibility by partnering with companies that have put aside hundreds of millions of dollars to improve Black businesses. I don't understand why we're not having the kinds of conversations with Ernst & Young about adopting our companies and providing accounting services to help our businesses to be more stabilized. I don't understand why we're not pumping more money into social media and technology, since this has been a paradigm shift whereby we can really get in the game and get things done and create the kind of virtual experience that makes people want to log on and see what's going on with us and around us. And doing some things, excuse me for rattling, but I'm excited about business. I couldn't wait to talk to you. Bringing celebrities into places and doing some safe distancing, mask on, but doing some events in an open air environment for Labor Day, planning some big things where people are going to have an experience. Because the day where people leave the house to go get one thing is over. We want them to have an experience, a total experience when they come to you. So we got hot dogs on the grill, we got Kirk Franklin singing, and we got cars all over the place. Let's make it a festivity. Our people need to celebrate, and they need to feel happy again, and they need to feel safe, and they need a car. Why don't we put all of that together and have a great time?
Well, I think we would like to definitely try to work on that with you. We do have some celebrities and athletes that are current dealers today, and we work with them as much as we can. But to touch on that same topic of having to pivot, how has pastoring changed during this pandemic for talk about virtual and also have you had to find a way to reinvent yourself both as a producer, bishop, and entrepreneur?
Everything has changed. As a producer, movies are gone. If you're not in cyberspace, you're not doing film anymore. So readjusting to that, whereas I had a contract with Sony for 20 years, Sony's trying to recreate itself and work out deals with Netflix. So the business has changed drastically, and you have to get in where you fit in. I just did a text this morning to my entertainment lawyer saying, hey, pump it up. You know, while they're feeling amiable to minorities, I want in that game. And you really have to be aggressive about going after that thing. So from that business perspective, it's changed incredibly. I've added real estate to my portfolio, building workforce housing and inner city developments to create job opportunities, solving problems. The best place to build a business is around a problem. And when you see a problem and your business is a solution, you don't have to work hard to fix it. When it comes to pastoring, I cannot even describe to you how it has changed drastically. I'm used to having an audience full of people. My church is packed out with people. Now I'm preaching in an empty room all by myself. I'm reaching all around the world through technology, but I was smart enough to get ahead of the game with technology before the crisis came. So I had a built-in audience to begin with, but I had to build it out further, and I had to be able to walk on stage and talk to absolutely nobody in the room and still maintain the energy and the intensity as if they were there. I had to imagine them to be there. We had to learn how to do funerals with masks on. In small increments, graveside services, weddings all change, comforting people through Zoom. We've got a lot of grief in our community. 138,000 people are dead because of COVID-19, disproportionately in Black and brown communities who don't go to therapists, who don't go to counseling, and often either drink, smoke, or go to church to anesthetize their pain. And finding ways to meet those needs have been challenging. We just got through feeding 7,000 people groceries every weekend on Saturday to make sure that the people who were unemployed had food to eat. So I had to develop partnerships with food producers and farmers and all of that kind of stuff. It has been huge transition for us. I've got 300 and some people on staff. And now the only time we see each other is on Zoom. And I've got all kinds of real estate and office space and desks with nobody behind them, organs with nobody sitting at them, pews with nobody fanning in them. Everything has changed. But we have three things to think about. One of them is our IQ, our intellectual quotient. The other one is our EQ, our emotional quotient. Are we stabilized intellectually? Are we stabilized emotionally? But the third one is the most important one to think about, and that's your AQ, your adaptability quotient. How well can you adapt to change and pivot on your feet? Don't hire anybody who can only do one thing. Don't employ anybody that's not flexible, and don't be inflexible ourselves. We have to adapt to change because it looks like with the level of different messages that are coming out of different elements of our leadership, that this is going to be around for a while because we cannot get one succinct message that permeates the country that would bring this to conclusion. So as long as it continues to perpetuate itself, it demands that we be adaptable, be flexible, be resilient, and keep cash reserves for these moments when things go haywire.
And to your point, like us, the auto industry historically has just been a person-to-person interaction. The dealership and the physical body of a dealership is the meeting place in order to do these transactions. And so our industry of auto industry and being such a interpersonal connection, shake hands, kiss babies type of industry has
Right.
forced a lot of our leaders of these stores to commit to a different business model and approach in the midst of chaos. How do you recommend, or how do leaders create stability in the midst of this chaos? And or is it possible?
Yes, I think it's possible. We have to invert our methods. Before we interacted with our business people and we called our friends. Today, we have to be more intentional and call our business people to create a form of intimacy, not necessarily needing anything, just checking on you, making sure you got my numbers. All the information is updated. Are you having any problems with your car? Are you doing good? Are there any things we need to do for you? Are you having trouble holding on? Do we need to have to talk to you about refinancing, doing something in your life? I'm just checking on you to see if you're okay. Those kinds of sensitivities that create intimacy, aged people, people who live alone, just going the extra mile to create the kind of customer service where they see you as a team player. The other thing that I think we have to do, and I have had to do, is become much more out of my silo of focusing on what I'm doing and much more engaged in the public square, the community, what's going on in the community, what's going on with the police department and the community, holding summits, being involved, being engaged, maybe providing automobiles to transport them back and forth for a meeting, to expose your car. There's a lot of things that we can do to get us back in the game again.
Well, with this chaos, you also have to figure out, I'm assuming, stability within your employees, because there's a lot of anxiety that employees are faced with, still having to go to work and have some form of fashion of interaction with either their coworkers or some customers that still come in the stores. And as we're seeing this rolling back within the states of these phases of the opening up too soon, how do you as a leader continue to keep people with their eye on the prize, but yet be safe?
First of all, the key word was leader. People are comforted the most when they know that they have a strong leader. And the voice of a leader can be quite calming. And I think for my staff, I have learned that I cannot allow the only time that they hear my voice is when it's business related. So we do little things. I just got through having a Zoom with about 400 of my ministers. Just, how are you? How's it going? I got on the phone with 12 of our pastors. They thought we were going to do business. I'm saying, you know, what are you cooking? What's going on? What's going on in your life? What y'all having for dinner? Are you happy? You doing good? You know, so-and-so lost your mother. I'm praying for you. So-and-so just got out of the hospital. Are you okay? I want to challenge every leader that's listening to me to pastor your staff. To care about them, because if you care about them, they'll care about you. And it doesn't have to take all day. It doesn't have to take all week. It could be one day out of the week. But little things that help us to feel emotionally appreciated increases productivity. Bringing donuts, doing little things that make them feel special. Right now, we're not feeling the love from anywhere. You know, from the disease, from the government, from the knees on the necks of George Floyd, we're not feeling the love. And so what we have always done as a people, is picked up the slack, had our own parties, block parties, street parties, fellowship, things like that. We've always had stuff in the garage. We will survive. We are tough people. Our ancestors had it much. Their good day was much worse than our worst day, and they made it. And so let's dismiss from ourselves this idea that we don't have the fortitude and the tenacity within ourselves to overcome. But we have to give people what they don't get. You know, somebody lost their father, check on them. Father's Day was a tough day for you. You're on my mind. How you doing, man? You want to talk? You want to chill out? Just doing something where the best place to work is not where you make the most money. It's where you feel the most at home and where you feel appreciated and where the workforce feels like a family. And that comes from the leader down. It creates a different ethos. It creates a different culture and a different dynamic. And sometimes we're so busy trying to make sure that we come out with the bottom line right that we miss all the lines that lead to it. The best investment you can ever make is not in cars, not in buildings, not in property, not even in technology, though I'm a big technology person. The best investment is in people, because what good is a machine if you don't have anybody to run it? And so just so those attaboy moments, a text, you did that good. Making sure that we affirm the people that are doing well rather than taking them for granted. Because if you're not appreciated at home, and you're not appreciated at work, and you're not appreciated walking up and down the street, your morale is going to decline to the point that you're just drawing a check. And I think the leader has to add to his list of things to do to be a little bit more fatherly or motherly, a little bit more pastoral, a little bit more intimate during this season.
Bishop, with a real quick follow-up. How important is faith, having a foundation in faith, for a leader to lead?
I don't think you can be a business person or an entrepreneur and not have faith. Whether you want to have it or not, you got to have it. I mean, the numbers will make you have faith. Because one moment everything is doing amazing and you're sitting on top of the world, and 2 months later, nobody passed by your window. Nobody even waved at you when they went past. You have to have faith in order to have an equilibrium. The goal is to have an equilibrium. And faith causes me not to take my good days too seriously or my bad days too terminally. It keeps me balanced. It keeps me stabilized. Because one thing that COVID-19 taught us, and really that increased my faith, is that we're not in control. We're not in control. God is in control. And it's not over till he says it's over. And it's going to be what he says it's going to be. And it shows you, it forces you back into humility. Because we can say, I'm opening up the city. But he can say, oh, no, you're not. Or you're opening up the church, but you're in there by yourself. So all of a sudden you have to humble down and admit that there's somebody bigger than me and you, and that we need his guidance, and we don't want to be working against him. We want to understand what his plan is for our lives. And we must not allow a temporary interruption on the road to success to detour us from the destiny of where we ultimately intend to go.
So, man, that's good. That's so on point. So, Bishop, within our dealer body, not over 90% of the minority automobile dealers are first-generation entrepreneurs. And so I'm currently reading your book, Crush. I'm not, probably like chapter 5 or chapter 6, but early on you talked about seeds and pruning. And so at NAMAD, one of the things we are pushing and urging our dealers to do is to come up with succession plans. We have a next generation initiative which focuses on the sons and daughters and individuals who aspire to become dealers but lack capital, but have the experience. Can you provide some guidance on the importance in planting seeds and pruning?
First of all, I think that exposing them to who you are and what you're doing has long-term consequences. And the second thing that's important is to understand that they may not have to do it like you to be your son or daughter. Allowing them to update how you did things, because the truth of the matter is what worked as a boomer doesn't work as a millennial. It just doesn't work. And we can either fight over who's right, or we can benefit from their strength. Put them over your social media outlets, your cyber outreach. Put them over things that really make sense, that work for their giftings and their skill sets, and you'd be surprised. I mean, our only income stream is through technology right now. And so using them to their highest and best use is important, and then releasing them to discover themselves rather than making them have to play a role in a movie that they didn't pick. Sometimes they're not going to want to be what you want them to be, just like you didn't turn out and do what your father thought you should do, and you have to learn when to back off and let them find themselves. The hardest part, you ask me, is access to capital. that has been a continual problem in minority communities. One of the things that I am learning late in life is that we need to go to minority bankers, minority lenders, people who understand us. We have a better chance at getting through the red tape than we do going to some of the larger institutions that don't cater to us. And so I would encourage them to seek them out. And not only those people out, but people who are in the business of financial equity businesses and companies like that, that may give up startup capital. And finally, the third thing that we don't like to do is forming limited liability partnerships and bringing in outside capital to capitalize the business. We insist on owning 100%. I would rather own 10% of $100 million than 100% of a $100 bill. And so if partnering with somebody can take you to the next level, don't be scared. You can work out the details in the contract. The contract's gonna be solid as a rock. You can still protect your interests and still have control and make it an investment for your corporation. And if you're doing a lot right now and you're doing it in an opportunity zone, you are in prime location to attract investors. Pick a place in an opportunity zone to set up your business and go into the room where the billionaires are who are looking for tax write-offs. This is a prime time to start a business in another location, but you've got to pick a location that's in an opportunity zone, that's not far away from people, and then you've got to go out and sell to the billionaires. Investing in my business is going to save you taxes, and after 10 years, you're not going to have to pay capital gains on the money you made through the collaborative effort of doing business with me. And my best investor is somebody who will help me market my business along with me.
I'm speechless.
Right.
I think, and I'm going to ask if you can elaborate on, with us, we're trying to really talk about diversifying. And in your book, you talked about how seeds multiply. Even when you prune something, it sprouts new buds. And can you touch on that, what you mentioned on in the book? It was very strong to me on, because that's something that we continue to preach to our membership, is the importance of reaching back and helping someone else, or helping them, or providing capital for someone who wants to have opportunity but doesn't have that capital. Can you touch on that, about that importance of helping, trying to recreate and duplicate yourself?
You know, I think it's very, very important. There was an initiative that went on in Detroit where they were giving microloans to start businesses, $5,000, $10,000 loans to start janitorial business, lawn cutting services, drapery cleaning services. It doesn't necessarily have to be in your field to give back to the community in some way. And you know, if you're running a dealership and the only thing that's standing in between you and bankruptcy is $5,000, you're out anyway. So, so you know that's right. So, you know, creating that kind of goodwill initiative, have an event, give out some small micro loans to small businesses, have it at the dealership. There are so many ways to draw people in other than, do you need a car? You know, make it where you're giving. The Bible says, give and it shall be given unto you. And so I think diversifying your approach, your methodology, your experience is important. And isn't it a shocking thing to go to a car dealership to get where they're giving me something? And yet in the process of you giving, somebody's going to come and they're going to give back to you again. Creating those, again, those kinds of experiences are very, very important. There are college kids right now that would get extra credit by working in mentorship programs up under you, that you don't have to pay benefits for, that you don't have to pay expense for, that they get college credit for, that they get work experience, management, accounting, all sorts of areas where they can have expertise. And it would be remiss of me if I didn't mention this. In your automotive repair places, We cannot be the kind of people that will not hire second chance people, returning citizens, formerly incarcerated people. We have got to extend some opportunities to them, because if I come out of prison and I can't get a job and I can't get a place to stay, there's no place for me to go but back into prison. That's why we started our Texas Offenders Reentry Initiative. We have seen 30,000 people graduate from our program. Our rate of recidivism is lower than any place else in the country, but we have to go out and find them jobs and places to stay. It would be great if they had an apprenticeship as a mechanic, an apprenticeship in doing your lawn care, cleaning your facility. Let's help each other to help each other.
And to your point on the pivoting, what advice would you give a car dealer or a business entrepreneur? How do you pivot from the traditional to this virtual? You don't know much on the virtual. Is there, how do you, because there's an age, there may be an age issue with technology, but
Yes.
there are points with next generation, but how do you pivot from that tradition where you 20 years ago, you're used to doing the same thing the same way, and to overnight, we've had to pivot into this virtual?
Man, I have been running with my tennis shoes on trying to keep up. I am trying my best not to end up like my parents. Back in the days when I was young, we had 8-track players. My mother could buy a stereo system, but she couldn't run it. And I remember being a teenager thinking, I'm not gonna be like that. I'm gonna keep up with the times. And so as technology keeps going, I had no idea that the times were gonna keep moving so fast. But as technology kept moving forward and forward and forward, I forced myself to keep up. I fiddle around with my computer and my phone. I posted right before I walked in the door. If you follow me on Instagram at Bishop Jakes, my wife and I were going out the door to come over here. You will see this suit. I keep up because if I'm going to reach the next generation, I have to speak their language. I think it's important. So as boomers, it's important that we find out there is no button on your phone or on your laptop that if you hit it, it will blow up. It is not going to explode. It may drive you back to another window, but it is not going to explode. Do not be afraid. It's a great place for you to bring your sons and daughters and let them teach you. It's a great place to build relationship between the two of you. When I get in a jam, I call my son and say, I'm in this window, I can't get out. What do I need to do? He said, oh, hit Control, Alt, and escape, Dad. You know, whatever it is I need to do. And it's a great place where we get to trade places, where he gets to be Superman and he gets to be Batman and I get to be Robin. Those kinds of exchanges is preparing us for a day that when I'm more feeble and more vulnerable, that he knows that I need him. That's a good thing to have. And I say to our generation, do not go down without a fight. Learn, take classes, go on YouTube. There's nothing that you can wonder about that you can't Google on YouTube and ask them how to do it. Just type in, how do I get this done? And describe what it is and hit enter. And there's a video showing you what to do. Keep learning, keep your brain engaged, and keep going. To the businesses that are out there, your livelihood depends on technology. They said in the next 10 years, but because of COVID-19, I'll say in the next 5, 80% of the businesses will be in technology. You either get with it or you go broke. We have no choice but to keep up with the times because the whole world, you can't check out at the grocery store without technology anymore. You can't get on an airplane. We used to have the paper tickets and everything is going technological. I don't want that. I like talking to real people. I like writing notes on a legal pad. You know, I'm old school. I make biscuits from scratch. You know, I'm old school, okay? And I love that, and I'm proud of that. And if things get bad, I'll always survive. I can grow a garden. I can can vegetables. I can make it if I have to. If it ever comes back to the 1950s, I'm good. However, it's 2020, and it's going to be 2021, and I want to live till I die. And so I make it my business to keep learning and keep asking questions and redesigning your business so that your business doesn't get stuck because you are.
100% right. What projects are you working on? You mentioned the project you work trying to renegotiate with Sony. Do you have any books coming up? You've written 41 books.
Yes.
41 books, and that's, I mean, that's amazing. New York Times bestseller. What other projects are you working on virtually to expand your portfolio as well as your ministry?
I've got a series that's going to be coming out on Lifetime that we've agreed to start shooting. 7 Deadly Sins, that's going to be coming out probably next year, that we hope to start filming this year, that I'm really, really excited about being a part of and being involved in it. I'm extending my cyber footprint by providing a Spanish equivalent to my station so that the Spanish-speaking community can hear my message in their language. So we're setting up a complete Spanish counterpart so that we can be able to communicate. We're translating some of our materials into Portuguese because I have a strong fan base in Brazil. I'm busy working on real estate development. I put together a coalition of people and started a company called TDJ Rev. And I've got the TD Jakes Foundation, which is built around educating our people in STEAM, science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. And so we just did our summer camp for 5,000 kids through virtual technology, training them for the world ahead of them rather than training them for the world that was. So between that, the foundation, we're helping people find jobs through the foundation, and we're committed to workforce housing because most of the people who live in our cities, most of the people who take care of our cities, nurses, police officers, street sweepers, plumbers, can't afford to live in the city that they work in. Solving these kinds of problems not only create an opportunity for upward mobility for me, but it solves a problem for our community that causes us not to be trapped in communities that are beneath our vision.
And congratulations. And we look forward to hearing and seeing those projects. And we recently had Steve Harvey on, as we talked last week. We talked about reinvention, and you have done as well an amazing job of reinventing yourself and also expanding and diversifying yourself using your faith-based platform, which is just your base, and also being able to help others and reach back and help others as well. I commend you. On behalf of NAMAD, we appreciate you. Hopefully I get a chance to meet you personally.
I would love that.
And for that, Bishop Jakes, thank you very much for celebrating our 40th anniversary and meeting with and talking with us today.
Can I leave one comment before we close?
Absolutely.
Diversification for me was not difficult. I was true to my core. I put my hand in everything I was interested in. And I want to say to your audience that's watching out there, do not allow people to define you by how they met you. If you meet me and you say TD Jakes is a preacher, you have incarcerated me to your understanding of who I am. Never let people put a period where God put a comma. You can diversify yourself by looking inside of yourself. You are more than one thing, and you owe it to yourself while you have the strength and the energy to at least try everything you're interested in. So what if it doesn't work? At least you're not sitting on a bedpan in a nursing home wondering what would have happened if you would have tried it.
Oh, you are so right. And that's one of the messages we leave as well.
Thank you.
Bishop, thank you very much. We appreciate you. And please, if anything that we can do to help you, your church, and your businesses, we are here to assist. I hope everyone stays safe. Please keep those masks on.
Yes.
Comfortable, please.
Yes.
And as you again, as you mentioned earlier on, please just try not to get too consumed with the media.
God bless you. And tell Tom Moorhead I said hello.
Sure will. Thank you, Pastor.
Bye-bye.